My name is Ellex Swavoni, and I'm an interdisciplinary artist. In my marketing class, something that stuck out to me was that the importance of having a name that transcends cultures. So one of the examples they gave us is like Chevy Nova didn't do well in Spanish-speaking countries because Nova means no go. So whenever I come up with a name, I'll break it down into different languages to see if it still scans as something positive. So Swavoni doesn't exist in any other culture. It's a very unique name. And even if you take the Swa from it, it still means something good in any culture. So that's what solidified that it's a name I'm gonna use. And even like Ellex, even if you chop that name up, break it down, it does still mean God, law. It's still a very powerful name. My mother had me at 19 years old, and so we didn't have a whole lot. So that's where the inclination to be creative, to draw, to make bracelets came from. Making your own fun and kind of collaborating, or even making an opportunity to make friends from making things. A lot of my friends came from we made things together, we make songs together, we make drawings together and share them. I started sculpting when I was maybe 8 years old. I saw an art toy by Sam Flores, who was a part of Upper Playground, and I was like, wow, I have to figure out a way to be a part of this. I have to figure out a way to inject my own sensibilities into this art form, because I've never seen, such a perfectly made cultural item before that was made for adults, but in the context of children. The art toy movement is what motivated me to start sculpting, but I had no way of knowing how to sculpt. So I just had to figure it out just from looking at reference materials. And that was before I'm not that old, but that was before the internet was prevalent and there was a lot of media on there. So I was taking small bits of information from wherever I can find it, whether it's on just a random site on Google or whatever, to try to figure out, oh, okay, this is the way that you approach, making a hand or making a head. You make it in parts and you put it together and you blend or whatever. I was having to piece together and learn from experience, just trial and error, how to sculpt. And it just keeps getting more informed as I go. And I also take mentorship when I can find it, I'm always thinking about time when it comes to my work, whether it be ancestral, whether it be, futuristic. I'm operating in this perspective where I know that I am not isolated in this moment, that I'm responding and in communication with the future in the past at all times. And so a lot of my art speaks to that. With each discipline that I operate in, I would say that they all require a different personality from me, because it's a different space. One thing that's different from sculpture, that's different from painting, is that painting or doing design is a very solitary practice. So I'm really by myself. I'm hunched over a computer or a painting, trying to make something happen. Whereas sometimes with sculpture, if I'm doing something that's large, I need people. We have to collaborate. You have to manage, vendors, manage, a team to make something happen. And with music is a super team sport. There's people who are operating in different, categories where this is the pianist, this is the engineer, this is the vocalist, whatever, and everybody's coming together to make one complete vision. And it's an entirely different environment. It requires an entirely different personality sometimes. My voice typically operates in the realm of Afrofuturism. I don't really like that phrase, only because I didn't invent it, and I think I need the opportunity to kind of specify what I'm doing in particular, because there's an entire context that exists outside of this moment with Afrofuturism that gets very political. But in the form that most people understand, I am an Afrofuturist. My sensibilities cross the medium line all the time, because even when I'm making an abstract piece, I'm thinking about how that exists in the culture of whatever the moment is doing, whether I want to cross the grid and do something off kilter, or kind of stay within the language that exists already. The thing that motivates me to create is a couple of things. Mostly, I released a little bit of my selfishness probably in like 2019, 2020, where I realized I'm not just doing this for me. This is something that I'm giving to people as well when I share it. So like knowing that I have a responsibility, because a friend of mine said, where else are we gonna get this? Because it's not happening as much as it should. So having representation of like, people who look like me, look like, African-American people, African people across the diaspora, in these contexts of like expanding beyond the moment into different paradigms of time, whether it be ancient or future, is something that, you don't get all the time. And it's a responsibility in that way. And also, what else am I gonna do? This is my life. This is what I've done forever. It's in my programming. There's a feeling that comes from making work that's like in service of, a financial goal solely. Like when I'm doing graphic design work, I'm only trying to communicate a very specific thing, which is buy, 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 buy. Whereas when I'm making sculpture or music or, abstract art, I'm trying to have an intellectual conversation with whoever's viewing. Like there's something that we're connecting through that I value versus just like, please spend money. Lately with sculpture, I've been following like a specific formula that focuses on time. So I'm working with like a narrative, and there's characters in this narrative, and I have to express every part of this character. So it's like, where does this person live? What are their values? And how that affects like what they would be wearing or how they would be positioned in, whether they're speaking or standing or what have you. And so there's like the narrative structure comes, and then it becomes like, what is it in conversation with? And then that's where I start to gather reference material. Like maybe I'm referencing something that's like, from like Western Americana, and I'm speaking to like maybe how, Native Americans may have dressed when they were entering, the West into cultures of cowboy. Or maybe I'm expressing, how Black people would have dressed in the Harlem Renaissance and like how that may have transcended if it was like in 2100. So thinking about time, thinking about the story is what is the process that I go through for essentially my character design when it comes to my sculpture. My work gives me mental and physical sovereignty by like offering me the creativity, the mental space to expand beyond the moment, expand beyond, space, and make and do things that are outside of what, you would typically expect someone to do. And I want to extend that also to individuals who view the work like, I can transcend time. I am not just this moment. I am everything that happened before me, and I have the responsibility of creating whatever to come after me. Right now, I'm really, with my art practice, and specifically with sculpture, I'm really focused on material. So operating with more tact with material. So I've left petrol-based products, so no more resin, and I've gotten into hydrostone, which is a gypsum product, and I'm working also with glass. And I think that, glass is a very precious material, especially because like beaches are disappearing. And I think that knowing that that's a precious material is also opening my mind to like actually using what people would perceive as precious materials, because essentially with the style of the language that I'm operating in with my sculpture work, it looks like a relic of time. So making it, have that relic of time kind of feel worth using, maybe like, gold or using, lapis or whatever materials, turquoise, different precious stones in it is like where I really want to go with it. Little pieces of jewelry that you can put on your mantle in like a glass box, like it's like, the rose and Beauty of the Beast. I think that I enjoy just the magic of having an idea and being able to make it happen. Plain and simple, seeing something in your head and just manifesting it into reality is magic. My name is Ellex Swavoni, and I'm an interdisciplinary artist, and this is my voice and this is my life.